Cavs and Raptors game 6 tonight in Toronto. The game is scheduled for 7:30. It'll start at 7:40 something.
Today's Amazon Prime, which is 11 minutes. So 7:41 is your official
7:41 start time. I'll be doing a podcast live after the game, by the way, to react. How are we feeling? Zach, we'll start with you. How do you feel about the Cavs' chances of ending the series tonight?
Well, I feel a level of confidence that it will happen. That level hits a ceiling because I've watched closely and because the Cavs have just had these lapses at the defensive end. They've given up too many easy buckets. And in Toronto, it just hasn't gone their way. But I do feel like that, a little like last night, and I'm not trying to say it's going to be 50 points, but I feel like there's a comparison there where the Hawks were this team that was hard to play against and this team on the rise, and they just kind of hit the wall. So I don't think the Cavs have that killer instinct, and that scares me, but I do think the Cavs are the better team. I think Toronto might just be out of guys, especially if Ingram can't go or is severely limited.
Yeah. He's going to play.
And I think by logic, the Cavs win tonight and advance on. But I don't say, the more I talk about it, the less I actually feel like strongly about it.
Mike, Zach referenced the Atlanta Knicks game last night, which was obviously, Jay pointed it out on our chat, and it was like 75 to 20
22 when he texted.
It looked like a high school basketball game between an elite team and the worst team. But let me reference another game. Does the fact that the Celtics lost last night and that series is going to a game 7 make you feel better overall about where the Cavs are? Because you're like, okay, the Celtics are struggling too.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics are a team that all regular season, and in the postseason it's been even put under a magnifying glass even more. They shoot so many threes that if they have a bad shooting night, they're beatable by anybody. I mean, maybe not the Washington and the Nets of the world, but anyone in the playoffs can overcome a team that's shooting 47 threes and sub 30%. Their 3 losses, they shot under 30% from 3. Their 3 wins, they shoot above 30% from 3.
Yeah.
That's basically their litmus test. But the playoffs are supposed to be hard. That's why yesterday I was so frustrated at G and Jason for poo-pooing a win when they came back from double digits, when we've called them mentally soft before. We said Toronto's a tougher team, and then guess what? The Cavs were the tougher team down the stretch and won a playoff game that they had to win. As for tonight, though, I think you feel good about a few things. If Ingram does play, which he's expected to play, the Cavs are going to put him in all that pick-and-roll action. And the way their defense, I'm talking about the Raptors, have kind of stymied the Cavs' offense at times is they have 5 guys on the court that play with this frenetic energy at all times, running around, overexerting themselves, doing things that don't actually make sense defensively just to make Cleveland stop and think. It's hard to do that if you have a bum heel. And Scotty Barnes was not effective in the second half of Game 5 due to a quad injury. Correct. He said he's going to play. Is he going to be as effective? So all that leads to believe that Cleveland should be the upper hand today. They should be the favorite. They are the favorite. And then you also have to imagine it's not all their role guys first time in front of that Toronto crowd. James Harden and Donovan played 2 poorest games on the road. You would expect them to play better. And it's a chance for the Cavs to put a cap on a series that they have been the better team for about 80% of the series.
I agree.
Disastrous fourth quarter in Game 3. Disastrous second half of the fourth quarter. The whole game in Game 4 was bad, but especially that last 6-minute stretch. That was a disastrous stretch for Cleveland. Other than that, they've been the better team for the majority of the series, and I think when you have a team that's just better in totality, your Atlanta reference was great. At some point, Toronto has to kind of teeter back to the team we thought they were.
No, conceptually, I'm with you. It's hard to poo-poo any playoff win because it's supposed to be hard. But you just said it. When you are the better team for 80%, when your personnel is better at most positions, and you're clearly deeper and you're clearly better on offense, you should win. Mm-hmm. And that's why there's this angst. There's this uncertainty. Of course. What I'm looking for tonight is this. I think it was 22-4 in fast break points in the first half the other night.
It was.
And some of that was turnovers that the Raptors just got run outs that they couldn't get back. But a lot of it is hustle points. And if it's 22-4 again, then the Cavs are going to get themselves in a big hole. Like, it can't be that. So you're going to turn the ball over, right? You're going to live with Harden creating the way he does because that's who he is. But you cannot give up that differential. You cannot give them so many easy baskets because they're so offensively challenged. They need those easy baskets. And if they get too many of them at home, it gets loud, the momentum starts going, and then you're in trouble.
And in Game 4 in particular, and this is unacceptable. And I cannot, if you could bold, change the font, this is size 3,000 unacceptable. Twice in that last 6-minute stretch in the fourth quarter, Toronto turned a made free throw from Cleveland into 2 points on the other end in less than 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's unacceptable.
Made free throw. They inbounded it to Scotty Barnes. One time he went coast to coast and dunked it. The other time he went coast to coast and dumped it off to Podol, who had an easy layup. Those kind of things are unacceptable. That transition state, not true transition because it's not off a turnover, but that transition state of defense that the Cavs have to get back and be better at is something that you need to be focused on tonight because Toronto made a bunch of threes in Game 5. Jacoby Walter made 6. Shed shot pretty well from beyond the arc. But Barnes and Barrett didn't. If they'll shoot better tonight at home, Jamison Battle had the big Game 3 at home, they're going to have to find ways to stop Toronto from scoring those easy points that they can get and force them to work 20, 21 seconds into the shot clock to generate good looks. So they're going to keep up with Cleveland's offense.
The Cavs have earned this angst, this fan distrust by how they've played not only in this series at times, but over the past bunch of years, right? So it's no surprise that we should, even though the Cavs are the better team, even though Toronto's injured, that we should feel this angst because especially on the road, they were particularly bad. I think you're overstating how dominant they've been in the series. I mean, Toronto played better for 3 quarters in Game 5. Did they not?
Cleveland won 3 of the 4 quarters.
Yeah, but overall, through 3 quarters, I mean, you wouldn't have said – at the end of the 3rd quarter, would you have said Toronto has played better in this game or the Cavs? You would have said Toronto.
Yeah.
Right? So, like – but I think that was their last shot. I think all the air is out of the balloon on Toronto. They completely collapsed in the 4th quarter. And for all the talk about their defense and running around – the Cavs scored 125 points. Yeah. I mean, they scored 1,000,000 points. And that was with Donovan doing nothing. Donovan is hearing everybody kill him the last few days. All right? And only 1 day off between games, which a lot of this series has been 2 days off. So I think that the Raptors, who are already hurt, who are already thin, they're going to run out of gas. The Cavs just have to survive the 1st quarter. If this game is close at the end of the 1st quarter, which I assume it will be, then the Cavs will run them off the court, I think, in the 2nd half. Not only do I think the Cavs are going to win tonight, I think they're going to win by double digits. And I think Donovan's going to have 40 in this game.
That's just not their DNA.
It's
the case I made myself, right? But it's just not their DNA.
It hasn't been. I think it's time for them to turn that around. It's time for them to turn it around. And we'll feel different. If they go out there tonight and just demolish Toronto, I'm not saying like to the Knicks level. That's not realistic. But they win by 15 points tonight, take care of business, clearly control the game. Donovan has a big game. You know, we may feel differently about them going forward.
A playoff series, especially a 4-5, but just in general, a playoff series, it's such a roller coaster of emotions, unless it's said in OKC Phoenix or like the Cavs Heat last year, where there really was no chance for an upset.
Yeah.
And I'll use the Boston series for example. Boston's up 3-1. Series is over. Go back Game 5.
Yeah.
They lay a dud. Okay, it's 1 game. It's 3-2 now. Go to Philly. Lay another dud. Now all the pressure is back on the Boston Celtics in Game 7. The Lakers up 3-0. Lose Game 5, whatever. Lose Game 4, whatever.
Yeah.
Lose Game. Now the pressure's. Yeah. Is LeBron going to be the first superstar to blow a 3-0 lead? It's an ebb and flow. And with this particular series between the Cavs and the Raptors, started high, dipped down, and obviously sunk. They're back at a point. Their history tells us they should lose Game 6 because as soon as you start to believe in this Cavs team, regular season or postseason, they reel you in and they cast you back out.
That's right.
But I'm hoping, and I am hopeful, that this new combination and the experience James Harden brings in the playoffs and the fact that Donovan hasn't played a good game since Game 2 and the fact that Evan Mobley made those threes at the end of Game 5 and hopefully will carry that confidence into Game 6 and the fact that Toronto gave Cleveland everything they could handle in Game 5. Sometimes there's less talented team runs out of gas. All of that adds up to say this should be a night that we go to bed celebrating the Cavs getting past the first round of the playoffs. But they have earned the benefit of the doubt in no way, shape, or form, and that's why you have to have a little bit of hesitation with it.
That's my thought, and that's my hesitation as well. Yeah. I think that should happen, and I'll be glued. I'll have my popcorn ready long before 7:41. However, if I was doing something else tonight, Mike, and I said I couldn't turn it on until 9:22, I would fully expect it to be 68-60 Toronto when I turn it on.
Yeah, I can't blame you for feeling. I can't blame anybody for feeling that way. And maybe I'm kidding myself by saying it's going to go the opposite way.
No, we should think like you're thinking.
Yeah, well,
it's just you can't scratch off a battle scar over 4 years.
Yeah, their history tells you that it won't go the way I'm saying it will, but they have an opportunity to change that narrative.
The line went from 4 to 3.5. You know, this happens. I talked to Cleve TA this morning. The Cavs are 9-23 against the spread this season as a road favorite. And so, again, this goes back to November, December. There's no correlation there. But in this series, twice, last week in Toronto, they failed, specifically in Game 4. Game 3 just wasn't their night. But Game 4, they had the ebbs and flows. They had the up and downs. And then in the fourth quarter, they took the lead, and they completely faltered. So that until they get past that, we're going to have hesitation about how they're going to handle this.
One thing Jason said yesterday that I was thinking of was he didn't like how Kenny Atkinson was taking a victory lap about the mental toughness the Cavs showed in Game 5, right? Fine, one game, small sample size, it is what it is. But we had said after Game 4, going into Game 5, Toronto's the tougher team. The Cavs look soft. The Cavs wilted twice in a row where it was close in the third quarter of Game 3, blew it in the fourth quarter. We're up with 4 minutes left in Game 4, blew it. Then in Game 5, they come back. They overcome a double-digit deficit. They were the more mentally tough team than Toronto was in Game 5. If they could go into Toronto in Game 6 and end the series, cap it off, I do think that starts to bode a lot of positive momentum mentally, confidence-wise, for not just the players, but for Kenny, who hasn't had the playoff success as a coach yet, for this whole group who hasn't gone through a ton of adversity since they've come together. They coasted through a lot of the regular season because the schedule was against a bunch of teams that were trying to lose. We saw them have a chance in Game 4, didn't work. They did it in Game 5, and I think you need to stack some performances like that together to kind of fully believe that, hey, on paper we have the team that we think could at least make a championship run. We haven't proven it yet. We overcame one giant in the mental toughness category in Game 5. Let's prove it again.
Yeah,
slice it. And
they're going to have to prove a lot more before we totally believe, especially when they play better teams. But one step at a time. Get through this series, see what happens. Obviously, tonight's Game 6 in Orlando, Detroit tonight. That's in Orlando. We'll see if Orlando closes that out or it goes back to Detroit for a Game 7. Lakers-Houston tonight, right? Game 6?
All three, yeah.
All three tonight. All three are tonight, yeah.
And then is tomorrow Game 7
of Boston,
Philly?
Comes on right after the Kentucky Derby.
7:30, right?
And Denver lost last night, didn't they?
So that series is over.
How did they? I can't believe they lost without Anthony Edwards.
Minnesota's
going to get. Who's Minnesota playing? Oklahoma City?
No, San Antonio.
Oh, they're going to get smoked, right?
If the guys are still hurt, yeah. We'll see what they
Well, I thought Anthony Edwards is out for a while.
They said weeks.
Oh, well.
But DiVincenzo towards Achilles, he's out. And DeSumo missed last night.
I think it's going to be in Oklahoma City, San Antonio.
That's where we're headed.
They're the two best teams.